and welcome to another episode of Data Lounge, where we take a slightly more relaxed and fun approach to data. We have two very special guests today. We have Alexander Blair. Hi, Alex. How are you doing?
I'm all right. How are you?
Fine. Thank you very much.
Good.
Thank you for coming. We finally got you here.
Yeah, finally.
And our second guest is Vector, our guest AI, and you will see Vector walking around throughout our session today, and he's definitely going to be sharing certain very interesting facts today as well. So, hello, Vector.
Hey, Vector. Oh, he's
And as you can see, yes, he's gone camera shy. You can see our guest, artificial intelligence being, is deciding to have an attitude on its own. So this is the reality of having two guests on the same show. So, Alex, thank you very much for being with us today.
No problem at all. Thanks for having me.
So we're going to be talking about, because you say if I come to Data Lounge, I'm going to have to come with someone, and you told me you were bringing Vector over. So why? What's going on?
Yeah, so one of the cool things about Vector is some of the integrated sensors that he has built into him.
Okay.
And the idea is to use the Azure Cognitive Services to add a little bit of enhanced functionality with some models that he may not necessarily have access to, and still allow us to kind of explore some kind of AI without having to worry about any of the complicated mechanics that go on in the background behind it.
Okay, but what can you tell us about Vector? Who is Vector?
So Vector is a little robot that's designed to have personality. So he's built by a company called Anki. And he is designed to be basically a engineering beginner's tool to start picking up some type of coding languages whilst also having something that doesn't just sit there and do nothing. Has a personality, kids can get engaged with him. He has a very powerful Python SDK that sits in the background behind him and is very easy to hook into and start doing your own stuff with.
Okay, good, perfect. So that's Vector, and basically what we're going to be seeing today is a bit of Azure Cognitive Services and how we bring together basically what seems to be like a kid's toy to use enterprise services with Azure, right?
Exactly.
Okay, perfect. So let's get this started.
Cool. So today the cognitive services can be quite a scary thing to think about. There's quite a lot of engineering behind it. And especially when you're looking at some of the more technical aspects of it, a lot of people don't know where to start. So today's session, I'm hoping to kind of give a little bit more of a broad overview on how you would get started with using a tool such as AI and machine learning.
Okay.
So cognitive services is a collection of basically just APIs that are managed by Microsoft, and those APIs have SDKs that sit on top of them. You don't need any knowledge of AI or machine learning. You basically just need to know a little bit about how web requests are made, and you can start calling this stuff.
Okay.
And the really cool thing is, because of the breadth of the SDKs and the fact it is just a REST API underneath it all, is pretty much anything that can have an external connection you can start implementing and pulling it into your applications.
Okay.
So cognitive service itself is split up broadly into something that they call the 5 pillars of cognitive services. You have your vision, speech, language, knowledge, and search. An example of the vision is what we're going to be using today. So it takes a photo of a face or any image, and then can just be run in the background to provide metadata that not necessarily is attached with the file itself. Speech is more around text-to-speech and live translations and stuff. So you may have seen in the new one of the new versions of PowerPoint, you can have live subtitles in anyone's language. That's using cognitive services in the background, and PowerPoint is just calling with what's being called from PowerPoint. Knowledge and search are slightly more technical, but they're basically document metadatas. It will go through and you can scan through documents. It will return locations, celebrities, and that kind of stuff. So those are quite useful for indexing large volumes of content, but less interesting when it comes to Vector and getting him to do some interesting things. So there's some really cool use cases. When I was starting my research out, I wanted to kind of see, well, what are people using cognitive services for in an actual production type environment, rather than just playing and calling it from their laptops. And there's a really cool Uber's driver authentication is all done through cognitive services. So when a driver sits down to start their day, you want to make sure that it is the licensed driver that's driving. They use the Face API to recognize the person and use that to log the driver in so that they can then start doing it. And the whole thing is, you obviously don't want to be sitting there looking at your phone for half an hour trying to get it to authenticate. It just does it straight away and lets the driver go off and earn some money. The other cool stuff, especially around the speech stuff, is around the customer service chatbots. So Jet.com, who are a logistics agency, I believe, they have it as their front-facing. The first person that you speak to is the chatbot, and then the chatbot will then, if needed, forward you on, and it makes them more efficient because their agents can deal with the cases they need to rather than easy ones. And then the coolest one that I've seen is Seattle Against Slavery, which is a charity based in the US that is trying to combat modern day slavery. And they actually have two programs. They have Engage and Disrupt. So Engage is where the chatbots actually talk directly to people who are would-be slave buyers in order to keep them occupied while the authorities are then informed.
A little bit like a honeypot from a more security point of view.
Exactly, a honeypot type trap. And then they also have another one which is talking to the victims of potential slavery in a way that isn't kind of reliant on one person talking to lots of people at one time. You can scale very quickly.
Perfect. It's very interesting because normally when we talk and we hear about artificial intelligence, it sounds a little bit science fiction, right? For someone that is not necessarily from the data science or more edge, like probably many of us and many of you watching us over YouTube right now, not necessarily we hear artificial intelligence, we immediately think Terminator, we immediately think Matrix, we immediately think about those things that seem so far-fetched into the future that it's not something really you can grasp your idea on. But the reality is it's actually here, probably not at that level of Skynet sentience. But it's there, and we can see it with Vector, with our guest AI. I'm trying to be very respectful in case they take over the world, so they know I was nice to them. But it's fascinating what it can do.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think we're right on the cusp now as cloud computing becomes bigger and bigger, where we're getting to the size where we can actually have these models running in the background and running consistently and not just on a developer's laptop in a university somewhere. So the technical side of today's session, there's multiple ways that we can actually interface with cognitive services. They have .NET, Go, Java, Node.js and Python SDKs that are all built around the REST APIs. However, today we're going to look at just the REST APIs.
Perfect.
So going from spinning up a resource through to querying that resource with an image.
Good.
The same way that you can do it through Microsoft's own tools and websites, and then on to actually using Vector to kind of take the demo one step further and show what's possible with not, I think in total it's about 100 lines of code in order to get him querying AI.
Fantastic. I think it's a great way for all of us getting the basics right, because we hear AI and we hear the very advanced geekery going on all around. But probably it's important also, and thank you for joining us in our show and doing that for us to clarify, like, okay, these are the building blocks, these are the first things you need to know before we start creating machines that destroy us all.
Exactly.
Good.
Exactly.
Perfect.
So we will get on to how we do the cognitive stuff with Vector later. But all that we're going to do to start with is actually just use a Postman tool. This is an API development tool. It's very useful. You can call everything from Google. You could just do a GET request and see what that returns to you. As well as doing a bit more advanced stuff with some calling cognitive services as an example. So the first thing that needs to do is we need to go to the Azure portal, because cognitive services, those 5 pillars that I spoke about, they all come from one root URL. You spin up a cognitive services instance, and that has access to all of these different machines. So to do it, it's just create a resource as you would through the portal normally. You search for cognitive services, which is there, and just fill out if I spell it right, and then hit create. And this will just bring you to the normal
Azure,
normal Azure.
Normal resource provisioning with a few questions about it.
Put a name in there, put the location, your subscription, the pricing tier. Pricing's a little bit too complicated to go into now.
Okay.
But in essence, it's just done off a usage basic. There's one generic pricing structure and the amount of requests you send. So if you're putting it into production, is really when you're going to start paying for it.
And probably for our viewers as well, if you want to try these kind of things, don't forget that in Azure, one of the things that you can do is you can have a 150 monetary units. If you're seeing us from the States or from Latin America, from Asia, from Europe, 150, I think, is dollars and equivalents worldwide, what you can actually try for 30 days, all these technologies and everything. So don't just give it a try. It's probably one of the most interesting ways to do it.
I think it's 7 pence per 1,000 requests.
So
unless you're really hitting this thing hard, it's not going to rack up a massive bill. So for the sake of time and rather than just waiting, letting Azure deploy some stuff, what I'll do is there's a Blue Peter one that I've made earlier.
Perfect.
But yeah, all that happens is it spins up this is our root URL. So from here we would then say, I want to call the speech, I want to call vision in our case.
So it's all coming from one single endpoint in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. One single resource can deal with all of the pillars that we need.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, the 5 pillars that we just saw before.
Yeah. So there's 2 things here. We've got our URL. This will depend on the region that you set up your environments in. Okay. It's the best thing is to use the one nearest you, just for latency,
for latency
kind of stuff. And then your key as well. This key this resource won't exist anymore. So if you're trying to use that one, it won't work. But this is our authentication token. In essence, this is what cognitive services use to go. Okay, this is this person calling our endpoint.
Okay, good.
Yep. And that's pretty much all we need on the Azure side of things.
All right, very easy to set up, very quick.
Yep. It's 6-7 clicks, if that.
Very easy.
And then what we can do is actually start looking at, well, how do we, in Postman, then start interfacing with this? Now, this is where there would be a little bit of documentation diving needed.
Yes, okay.
But I've done that in advance, and I thought I'll break it down in Postman rather than going away and showing the complicated SDK logs and all of this kind of stuff. So what we're doing is we're calling the vision pillar.
Okay.
So we're calling vision. We're going to use the latest version, which is 2.1. The main difference between the versions that I can tell is you get slightly different attributes back, and some of them have slightly different things.
Because at the end of the day, these are APIs. So obviously the versioning of APIs can provide additional information, can change, the signature can change, the results can change. Yeah, so obviously it's as intelligent as this is, it actually does need to understand that there are some basic programming elements here, as with any other API consumption at the end of the day.
Exactly. And then what we want to do with this is, so the tags that we use in the URL, the parameters, we're going to be using description and tags. So again, listed in the documentation, there's loads of stuff that you can pull out. You can pull out locations if it can infer where it is, celebrities, all of this kind of stuff.
Okay.
In our case today, I thought rather than going with the usual ones, I thought we'd do one with a cat, just because it's kind of like vector.
Okay.
So we are going to be running this image through cognitive services.
Good.
And just out of, let's see how good the AI is. How would you describe that?
The place I'd like to be right now, we're recording from London, it's cold, I would definitely love to be there. Yeah. But if I were to actually have to describe it, I would say cat, mountain, city, beach, something like that.
And one of the cool things about cognitive services is it doesn't just return keywords, it will actually return a human readable string of what the image looks like.
Like a description.
A description, exactly.
So not just the words in a very robotic way, no offense, Vector, as I just did, right? But also narrating a little bit of a story of the image.
It has the advantage of rather than just saying cat, mountain, field, city, whatever, what it will actually do is say a cat looking over a city. Something like that. So
good.
That's the image that we're going to run through.
All right.
We do need to provide that key that we created earlier.
Of course, for the authentication part of consuming the API.
Exactly. So there's 2 ways to do that. You can either include it as a parameter, so it's question mark, API authentication key, whatever it is, and then your key.
String.
However, that's obviously then you're sending that in the request.
Yes,
so
it's not necessarily
security-wise, it's best to include it in the headers. So we assure it OCP APIM subscription key is where our value goes. So that's just the same that we have from the portal.
From the portal.
Copied and pasted in. And then we're also passing in the content type is application.json.
Okay.
Our JSON in the post request is very simple. All it is URL. That's it. That's all that's being sent.
That's all that you need to have to start working with AI on these fancy things. Just this line of code.
That line of code.
Okay.
All we're doing is saying, go away, get me that image. Obviously, it has to be a public facing.
Yes, of course. Obviously. Okay.
Image. Go away, get that image, and then run your AI goodness against it.
Okay, let's see what comes back, because it's. I'm always very doubtful of this one-line demo because you never know what the guests actually have in place. So let's see actually what happened when you trigger that postman.
Yep, I'm going to hit send. It's then going to go away. And there we are. So what it's done is, because I have the tags and the description.
Yes.
I believe you said mountain.
Yes,
you
correct.
said animal. You didn't say animal. You said rocky.
Is it okay?
Overlooking.
Good. Overlooking.
So
Yes. Okay.
And then it's also the model's confidence that word is also included in there.
Okay.
So if you were using this to do some metadata, adding metadata to your images, for example, you could then say, well, I only care what it thinks the most the highest level of probability that that's what that is there. It then gives them in a bit more of a nice array for us to use. Okay. But then in captions, we have text, and it says, a cat sitting on top of a rocky mountain.
Wow.
This isn't we could do this with any image. This isn't. This is all being generated by that
service
vision
in the cloud, that vision recognition in the cloud.
Exactly.
Wow, fascinating. And of course, when we talk, this is a standard JSON. I mean, if we are developers, right, this is basically the return of any other API. So it's something that if we have developed a little bit on the web and we've had some knowledge about it, this is something that is not necessarily alien to us, right? It's something that we have already worked with before.
Yeah, exactly, absolutely. And the majority of the time, if you've got one favorite language, chances are you've deserialized some JSON.
Yeah, correct.
So as long as you can make the request, it's going to come back and you're going to be able to do stuff with it.
Okay, so the invocation of the methods is quite straightforward.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. But obviously, Postman's not the most user-friendly of tools. You want to do some stuff. So before we get into Vector, what I thought would be a good idea is to actually look at some of the stuff that Microsoft have done. Okay. And they've created a very, very simple C# web app.
Oh, okay.
That basically is running on the Microsoft website at the moment.
Okay. Where do we go for that?
So to get there, we go to. Let me just grab the main face APIs. So at this point, we're switching slightly from the machine vision of analyzing images and more interested in, well, okay, there's a face in this photo. What are we going to do?
We're moving more towards a little bit of a human picture specifically now.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we go to this address here, what we have is this is the landing page for all of the documentation with some of the use cases that they have, age verification, group faces. I know that there's a couple of really cool apps that other people have built that's like, who's the nearest celebrity that I look like kind of thing.
Yes, that we have seen it on a few social networks whose name we cannot say.
However, what we're interested in is the face detection element. Okay. So what I have is my Twitter profile picture. So I thought we would use that and see what it says about me in that photo.
It doesn't get any more real life in Data Lounge. Yeah, so we're going to see, we're exposing, we're being vulnerable here. We're going to see now what happens with the picture from our human guest.
So if I hit submit, that goes away and it finds that image, pulls it off Twitter, and then it will highlight your face. So it's got facial detection in it. Okay. This can work up with, it's not just, it will only take one photo. It could do it for a group of people.
So if we have in a group of people, we will see these squares all over the place for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, good.
And what we then have as well, just returned in JSON, the exact same way that we've just seen from the other one, we get a load of face attributes returned about my face itself. So it's saying that it thinks my hair is brown. Might be black. It's 50% chance of being black, 50% chance of it being red, which I'm not sure. But it also says that I'm smiling. Okay. It then will also do calculations for how I'm holding my head, pitch roll, all that kind of.
We just had an accident with our artificial intelligence guest.
Vector's decided that he's bored of me speaking and decides to disappear off.
Yeah, seems to be alive.
He's fine.
It's okay. Good.
He's also got the fact that I'm a male, that it thinks the gender that I have. it guessed that I was 25, which is good.
Good.
It doesn't think I have a moustache, beard, or sideburns. It thinks I'm wearing makeup, though. So it thinks I'm wearing eye makeup and lip makeup.
Okay, well,
So
there you go for anybody.
I don't remember putting any on that day, but potentially.
Laura from marketing has been refusing to give us hair and makeup. Hair, I can understand obvious reasons, but makeup, you see, cognitive services is demanding it, so.
Exactly. And then one of the coolest things that I think that this model does is it will give you emotion. So it will actually return the emotion that it thinks you're feeling at the time. Now, obviously, you can have a mix of emotions, so it's not necessarily a binary construct. But for me, interestingly, it doesn't think I'm feeling anything but happiness in this photo.
Wow.
Which is an interesting one.
It's amazing. What else is it returning? Because it's giving you information about identification of you as a human figure with elements like gender, emotions. What else is it giving you?
So what's really cool as well, and this is when you can then start getting into a bit more of the nitty-gritty behind the uses of this technology.
Yes.
But it actually provides a mapping point of your face.
Oh, okay.
So what you can have is, if you look here, it says where the right side of my mouth is, the left side of my mouth,
and the coordinates of the different parts of your face.
Exactly. So that typical image you see of facial recognition, when they're joining all the dots up and running it against other people. Yes. That's what gets returned here. Okay. And with a little bit of math and occlusion, you could start building up a model of my face.
A model of your face. Okay.
Exactly. And that's how. So there's a slightly separate API, which is the like faces. It's what the celebrity, what celebrity do I look like, groups together. Okay. And that's how this works, is it will have done this, created a curated data set. Well, this is, I don't know, Brad Pitt. I'm just flattering myself, but this is Brad Pitt. You have a similar pupil distance apart.
Or eyebrow shape and position and stuff.
Takes all of these things into consideration. So it's a really cool. And
it's very easy to consume. I mean, when again, going back, we hear about artificial intelligence, and it's right there. It's quite easy, straightforward to consume.
And what's really cool is Microsoft have open sourced all of this code. So literally,
it's available for me to actually go and make changes to the code and start playing with it.
If you follow the documentation that they provide through the link underneath the demo, it will show you exactly line by line how you create this code, and that's the tutorial that they have for using cognitive services.
Perfect, excellent. This is looking great. Okay, so what else do you have?
So, this is where things get a bit more fun.
Okay.
Vector has decided he's had enough of us and gone to sleep.
Okay.
But basically, with Vector, we have multiple ways that we can control him. There's a phone app. So just like it's a very basic, allows you to press some buttons. Okay. One of the coolest things is, hey Vector, wake up. So now what he's going to do, he's at home at the moment, so we then go, hey Vector, go explore. So now he's decided that he's going to go out and kind of do stuff. So we've got the
For the audience right now, what I'm seeing right now, and we'll try to make a picture of this off camera, but the moment that Alexander had just said, hey, Vector, go explore, Vector just came, looked at me, it gave me a look like, who are you? Yep. And then it turned around, and it's fascinating. It's quite interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so if basically Vector has, we can talk to him with our voice. Okay. He has some inbuilt processing that will go away past those voice commands using a machine learning model and all of the stuff. He's got some AI built into him natively. Okay. But what I thought would be really cool is to kind of link the two together. So, so take something that can drive around and try not to fall off. He's usually got drop sensors, so he's now getting scared because he's just found an edge. Yeah, so he's got some of this stuff here. But what we can actually do using the Python SDK and using Vector in the background is we can actually get him to make the request that we've just made through Postman. Oh, okay. Using the webcam that's integrated into his face. Just here, he has a little webcam. Okay. Which is we can get the images from.
Oh, okay, perfect.
So this way, it's slightly more interesting than a photo that's already on the internet. It's a live representation of what he's seeing, then being translated into text. Okay,
let's see how it goes then. So I see a lot of code there.
Yep.
Okay.
So there's quite a lot of code. I say quite a lot. You think what we're actually doing is interfacing with an AI machine learning model that's constantly evolving because Microsoft will be retraining it. And we are using 94 lines of code in order to get him to do all of the interfacing. So
All of it is 95 lines of code.
95 lines of code.
Okay, let's see that.
So,
it's not anymore one line, it's 95, so this is getting more believable, more believable.
But the thing is, what's actually quite interesting is the actual call to cognitive services in here is one line of code. All we're doing is replicating the exact same call. So if we look at our parameters up the top, we are saying what attributes we want to return. So the same as we did description and tags.
The same as we did description and tags, correct.
We've got that we're now doing something slightly different because we're streaming a video. So we're changing our data type, it's no longer JSON. But it's then got a subscription key. And that's just the subscription key that we created there. And all that's doing is saying go away and do the same thing using Python. All of the other stuff is to get him ready to upload the information and how we get it out of there kind of thing. So relatively simple code. We've got our main function, and all this does is basically when we run the code, Vector will be looking for a face. So all he's doing is saying, have I detected a face? Yes, I have. Take a photo and send it off. We then take the photo itself and we save it onto local storage just so that it can then be passed and sent back up to Azure Cognitive Services.
Understood.
And that's what we do in Capture Image. What we then do is take that image. So as part of Identify Image, we take that image, we then post it to Cognitive Services. So we say, go away,
take this, process it, and
give me some results
and give me the results. So this is the moment equivalent of that Postman click on sending the request.
Exactly that. So that's that big blue button that we pressed. And then what it does is rather than then just displaying us raw JSON, because we can get him to say the raw JSON, but not as much fun. What we actually do is, so this demo, he will go to Cognitive Services and find out what your age is. And then tell you how old he thinks you are.
And then tell us how old he thinks I am.
So yeah, we could, Vector could be in cruising for a bruising, and if he gets it wrong, but yeah, let's give this a go now. The magic of getting tech to work, especially with Wi-Fi. Again, I've got another one here's one I made earlier. So I'll get Vector looking at me. And then run this code. All I'm running on the laptop down here is the same version of the code. It's just with a different Wi-Fi connection. So he's now connecting. He's seen my face. And in theory,
you should see it right now. We'll try to take pictures later. Right now, what it's doing, or what it was trying to do, is it was squeezing the eyes, like when you're taking a look and say, hey, who are you, what are you doing? It does exactly that on the lights. You will see, we'll upload it as part of the video a little bit later. But it does have visual expressions in terms of how we work with our eyes, for instance.
And that's the whole thing that Vector or Anki have tried to do, is make it so that it's a personality in your home rather than just a cold coffee machine.
A cold coffee machine, yes.
So you couldn't hear him because I think I was slightly too far away from him. But if I run him again, he's now, so the code's just launched. He's gone away, got my face.
You are 26 years old.
I'm looking off screen to see if that was caught in the audio.
Yes, it was.
So exactly.
26 years old.
26 years old. So
fantastic. That's quite impressive.
In the space of, I'll put this back on without annoying the sound guy, hopefully. In the space of 100 lines of code, but really just one. We've gone from the concept of just sending a JSON request to actually having a live photo taken of us, a robot taking a photo of us, and then passing it and adding context that is not available to Anki anywhere else.
It's definitely, I have to say, of course, our audience can imagine. We don't try to shop with everything. And for a few moments before we started actually recording, it was very interesting. We did a couple plays with Vector, obviously, to get to know our guest a little bit, right? And being respectful of its personality. And one of the things is I was sitting here, right, because our camera person, Dominic, was making adjustments, blah, blah, blah. And I was here, I just had my hands on my laptop, right? And all of a sudden I noticed that this guest, Vector started to come and push my hand, like literally push my hand, and it stood up on my hand, and it was really shocking. I have to use the word shocking, because Vector actually stayed for like, I'd say 15 seconds, right? Staring at me like this. I'm like, okay, now you're scaring me. And it's fascinating how this very small piece of equipment, because effectively it's quite small. We're talking about, for our viewers that measure in imperial measures, we're talking about 5 at most inches, at most 5 inches long, around 4 inches high. For metric viewers, we're talking about 9-10 centimeters approximately, around 8 height. The ability to go connect to the cloud, consume Azure services, the way we saw it with relatively little plumbing is absolutely stunning.
Yeah,
it's absolutely stunning. It's something that many years ago we wouldn't have been able to even think of.
What astounds me about this is he's got a lot of processing on board, but also he's got their own Anki cloud that he does some of the more advanced AI stuff in. But I think now you can get him for about 80 quid.
Wow.
So for the sake of that, it's a fantastic little coding tool that allows you to integrate with a lot of Azure's services, cognitive services being my favorite one to do.
Okay.
And one of the use cases that I've built with him using that emotion recognition that we talked about earlier is actually having Vector as a kind of like a live sentiment analysis of your meetings. So you can have him patrolling around the room. Every time he sees a face, he just sends it off to cognitive services, gets some results back, and then it's displayed using Power BI as a live streaming dashboard of who's feeling what in your meeting. Yeah, so quite a cool concept from something that is in essence a kid's learning toy.
It's a learning toy. But one thing you mentioned before, and probably for some of our viewers, not necessarily, if we come from a little bit more of a more traditional development background, not necessarily we're Python experts. You also mentioned that we would be able to do this with .NET, correct?
Yes, absolutely. So there's a .NET SDK that sits in the background, and from what I've read on it and did a little bit of playing with it, it's pretty much analyze image. Pass in your image, pass in your thing, and that will handle all of the subscription key management and stuff like that. So yeah, it's very quick to kind of thing. That whole the demo I did with uploading my profile picture on Twitter. Yeah, that's all done in C#.
It's all in C#. Wow, fantastic. So Alexander, thank you very much. This was absolutely hilarious. I have to admit to all of our viewers right now that it's been hard to try to concentrate when you have Vector moving around. It's been a really tough exercise. Thank you very much, Vector, for joining us. Hopefully you join us again in another episode of Data Lounge. Obviously, Vector is more concerned about playing with its cube.
Hey, Vector. Right now. Hey, Vector. Oh, no, he's too concentrating in that cube. Hey, Vector.
There it is.
Fist bump. Oh. He's thinking about it.
Like,
no,
you know what?
He's not happy.
I'm going to play with my cube.
Yeah.
There we have artificial intelligence made real. So to all of you, thank you very much for joining us in one more episode of Data Lounge. We hope you found this at least a little bit entertaining, a little bit different, and hopefully not too scary. Hope to see you in our next episode. Thank you. Don't forget to subscribe down there. Till next time.